Hey, Hawkeye fans, a new look today for the Hawk Central podcast. Some technical difficulties on Kennington Smith's computer. I'm Chad Leistikow, as you can see, with the notation down there of the Des Moines Register, along with Kennington. We're going to just be side by side with you today. Please forgive my cough. I can't mute myself, so I apologize in advance. But Kennington, today we're going to talk about Hawkeye football, and we've got three topics back at it after the trip to Ohio State. I guess before we get into our three topics, I don't know, just how you feeling? Like the mood right now feels so toxic and everything. I'm kind of just ready for a fresh week, and I feel like the Hawkeyes just need to get a palate cleansing win of some kind. And then, as we're going to talk about, Kirk Ferentz kind of, maybe puts his foot in his mouth a little bit today, maybe not, but we're good. I don't know. It just feels like a week to get right in a way, but I don't know, maybe it's past that time to get right. I don't know. Overall feelings as you head into the week here.
Yeah, I feel like it's almost at a tipping point where everything on the outside, the conversations, the pressure from local media, national media, from the fan base, it is starting to close in on the football program. And I think that there is almost like a defense mode within the football facility of like, okay, it really is kind of like an us against the world type of thing where we see that type of mentality from players when they go onto the road. Like Mason Richmond spoke about this with Ohio State, 70 going to play against 100,000. But I think it's different when your own fan base is kind of on the side of those who are kind of like criticizing and attacking the program in a way. So I would agree that it's definitely a toxic energy around the program. It's seen from the players today that their vibe is very positive, that they're just trying to look ahead and kind of get that win that might right the ship a little bit. And as we know, winning does cure all in athletics. So that's the vibe that I got from the players. We're going to get into what Kirk said today in a little bit. And he was a little bit more defensive than I think the players were. But overall, I feel like it's just a really interesting time in Iowa football. And it feels like every game players say it's a must win, but I can't think of a more true must win than what's coming up this weekend against a 1-6 Northwestern team.
Yeah, we will obviously get into the Northwestern matchup itself during our radio show tomorrow night, so you can catch that podcast on Apple and whatnot. I just wanted to ask our first down topic, Kennington. Obviously, you mentioned the Ferentz comments today, and since we're kind of doing this together, I can't really access my notes as well. But basically, the gist was you asked the question, by the way. Okay, so the first down question is Kirk Ferentz misreading the room? Now, to start this, Kennington has two, maybe you asked more questions, but there were two questions he asked today. The first one was about Alex Padilla, and he started talking about Barry Sanders. Not comparing the two, but just a random Barry Sanders reference. And then the second, I'll let you tee it up here. For those that missed it, Kennington innocuously asked a very softballish question. I'm not criticizing. I'm just saying it was like a, hey, how are you guys responding to adversity type of question.
Exactly. So essentially in the postgame presser after Ohio State, the players were saying that they felt like the turnaround would be and should be more player-led than coach-led because they're the ones on the field, and it was going to take veteran leadership to galvanize the group. These players are Jack Campbell, Noah Shannon, Kayvon Merriweather, captains, seniors, leaders of the team. So I just asked Kirk, how has he seen that type of responsibility that they're putting on themselves manifest in the few days after Ohio State? How has that trickled down to the younger players on the team? And it might have taken 10 seconds into his answer where he kind of goes on this tangent where he, without saying his name, goes after the columnist from Cleveland.com who pressed him in the post game, and then ended up writing a column that made its way around the college football universe and said something to the effect of, on my way back, it dawned on me that it's not all bad because I'm me and he's him. It's pretty much what he said. Like, I'm in this position and I'm not that guy with his job in that role, acting that way towards me. And then he kind of goes into the answer about what I actually asked him in the first place. Yeah. But I think that what he said first obviously kind of took the show, and it's making its way on social media right now. And it's really just another example of saying things that I bet that he would like to have back. And going to the whole question about misreading the room, I think that he is. And I think that an ironic part about what he said was, and later on in the answer was about taking ownership and accountability, and those are going to be the things that's needed to spark a turnaround. But whenever he's asked about the state of the program or how bad the offense has performed this year or how he's evaluating coaches on his staff, namely his son, a lot of it is not taking ownership, but more going and relying on history and past references of today was an example. The last 4 years, we've lost 2 or 3 games in a row. Things have turned out okay. Or in 2014, there was a lot of scrutiny. Things turned out okay in 15. Or references from 02 or 04 or other references. I'm not as well versed in Hawkeye football as you are, obviously. But the point that I'm making is he's referring a lot to things that have happened in the past as kind of a guide for the here and the now. And it has worked in years past, but I think that the patience is so very low with the fan base that they're not trying to hear those same references anymore. I think that they want to talk about the here and the now. They want to talk about current solutions and where the program is trending into the future. So that's kind of, I guess, a way to kind of like tee it up, and kind of my initial thoughts on the matter is obviously it's something that he's probably going to want back. But I think that the overall takeaway is maybe things that he's used in the past to reference struggles or to kind of mitigate that or to calm fans down are not working the same this season.
Well, yeah. So Doug Lesmarais, I'm sorry for Lesmarais is the way you pronounce it. Yeah, Cleveland.com. Wrote the scathing column. We talked about it in our post-game podcast, and we if you missed that post-game podcast, you should check that out because we kind of went into that for a while and why we both kind of felt very fair questions, and even though they were pointed, understood kind of that basically those are the types of questions that, because of naming his son offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach, that you should expect to face as the head coach of the worst offense in college football and historically bad. So it was an interesting. I've thought about this a lot since the press conference, which was about 3 hours ago now, and I want to give Kirk Ferentz the benefit of the doubt as much as possible, but he didn't. But I guess just the point being, I feel like my initial impression, Kennington, is like that he's like, hey, I'm going to go after the Ohio State media guy here, just unprovoked almost, because he came after me. I felt like he wanted to say something, you know what I mean? But my initial impression was that, hey, that they're the big, the evil media attack guy, the guy that's attacking me. But I think everybody's on the side of, he goes, that guy, I'm better, I'm glad I'm not him, basically, is what he said. And it's like, okay, but that is like your fan base largely agrees with that guy. Now, I'm not saying like 100% of Iowa fans agree with, and obviously there was a little bit of snark, but Doug's writing is somewhat humorous. If you read him at all more regularly, and he has that kind of, columnist humor said. So I didn't have the column itself. You should check out. Makes a lot of fair points, I feel like, throughout. And I don't think we had the column when we did the pod Saturday night at that point. So yeah, want to give Doug a hat tip there. And anyway, so but I think what Kirk Ferentz was trying to do is saying, I think, like, giving him the benefit of the doubt, Kennington, I think he was trying to communicate our players responded to adversity and tough questions professionally. And I wouldn't say we asked those. We are not asking the players about nepotism, just to be clear. So it's not apples and apples, but that he did not care for the decorum, I guess, of the reporter. And there was a little bit of showmanship in the questioning, but he also was trying to get in questions before the deadline. They pulled him off the stage. So I kind of understood that as well. All in all, a regrettable look for Kirk Ferentz today. I think I understand what he was trying to do, giving him the benefit of the doubt. But at the same time, not a good look to basically say, that he was interrogated and, that he's almost above those types of questions and attacks. And really, I realize it's football, but this is the fiber of Iowa football fans right now. You're taking Iowa football and ruining it to an extent because of the decisions that you've made, but on offense. So anyway,
I think
that was my long rant. I know we both went off for a while
there. Yeah. I know we kind of have to move along with these segments, but I agree with what you're saying in terms of giving him the benefit of the doubt. But here's what I'll say to this, and this is something that has been starting to become a long-standing issue is not always what you say, it's how you say it and how it's going to come off. This goes back to what he said about Deuce Hogan after the Nebraska game last year. This is what he said in the presser after the Illinois game. I'm not sure if you're aware, but we've won 10 games last year, and we've been doing this for a long time. Even Brian Ferentz, to an extent, with what he said about Spencer after the Iowa State game and what he said about Alex Padilla in his recent presser, is that they can mean well, and maybe what they're saying isn't – they're not – what they're trying to say might be good intention, but it's not coming across that way. And when there's so much hyper focus on the program, and when you do have those past blunders that are so recent, it's going to multiply times 10. Like everything is going to be scrutinized down to the T, because fans are hanging on to literally every word, because it very much from the outside at least feels like the program is in this kind of limbo to where they could correct their issues and it's like a let the good times roll, or it could spiral out of control and Iowa football could go into a place where fans haven't seen it in a long time, and it probably hasn't been in a long time, maybe even since the days of pre-Hayden Fry almost. And I think that's kind of where it's at right now. So obviously it's a very delicate situation all around. I don't think that internally the players and the coaches are looking at it as that dire of a situation, but when there's so much attention on the program on a national level now at this point, I said in our post-game pod that like Iowa's brand right now at this day is like bad offense and nepotism. And when that's the case, everything is going to be scrutinized. So it's kind of I don't know if this is rare territory for Kirk, but at least since I've been here, I haven't seen the fans really kind of like, I don't want to say turn on him in a way, but kind of like really criticize him and not take his word, at face value, and giving him that kind of that leeway and that time to kind of correct things. So, we'll see what happens on Saturday. I think that obviously getting a win is going to mitigate that a little bit, but looking ahead to the rest of the season, I mean, every single game is going to be so critical, because I feel like all 5 of these are swing games in a way.
Yeah, and let's get to that next. Our second down topic is. It kind of is a transition, because again, I've been thinking about this comment a lot today, because I did not really like. I cringed when he said it, and honestly, it does. As a journalist, my last thought on this is, I think he's almost trying to say like that he's above the tough questions almost, and that he doesn't need to be. Look at my track record. You don't need to be attacking me like this. I think that's kind of the vibe. But I don't like that. I don't like that feeling. I don't know. I don't think he's like coming at us necessarily. I don't know. But I didn't care for it, I guess, is what I'm saying. But also trying to think about it, I feel like he knows that they have an opportunity to look good this week. That was my feeling, is like, okay, I'm going to flex a little bit here. Again, this is what I'm thinking about him. I don't think he was told to say this stuff, but I think he knows they got a chance to do something this week. And that leads to our second down topic, which is who plays quarterback on Saturday, and does it matter? We don't know for sure who's going to play quarterback. I think it's going to be Spencer Petras. They are going to let it play out in practice this week. Is there, it's funny because like he basically said, it doesn't really matter who's going in, and, like as far as like it's not going to change. If it's really not, doesn't make a difference, then why can't you tell us? But I guess he wants Northwestern to prepare for both guys. He even said he might rotate, but there's no way he's not going to rotate. No going to ride. Like that would shock me.
Yeah,
it'd be the first time since the Tax Slayer Bowl. And you don't want to bring up Tax Slayer Bowl references anytime. That's not good PR policy. Anyway. Who do you think, Start? What do you think? What's your read on the quarterback situation based on comments today? Sounds like splitting Splitting the reps.
Yeah. Splitting the reps. I feel like it's going to be Spencer. The fact that it's even debatable, or the fact that they're even going back and forth on this is what's pushing me towards Spencer starting. Everything that we've heard for almost a year now has pointed to him being the number one guy, even down to practice performance. They're saying that they're splitting the reps, but every single week we ask about the quarterback situation, it seems like he is definitively a better practice player. I don't know why that would change this week of any weeks. So those two things combined, I feel like leads me to believe that it's going to be Spencer. And I think that another telling part of what we heard from Kirk today is he doesn't anticipate it being like a super short leash. I don't have the quote in front of me, but he said something to the effect of whoever is the starter, hopefully they do well, but we want to see it play out for a while. So if that is the case, it just adds more confusion as to why Alex played in the first place, which is, going to the Barry Sanders question. I asked Kirk, the last 2 times we've seen Alex play have been second half, huge deficits against national championship level teams. Do you find that hard to get a true evaluation of how much he's progressed under those circumstances? And he really didn't answer the question. He just kind of said, he said something about Barry Sanders making a 12-yard run that he won't forget, and that overall with quarterback play, it's complicated because there's so many moving parts and it's been a challenge all over. So it was kind of a non-answer, but really what I'm getting at is if you're going to put him in that situation and then he's not definitively going to be the guy the next week, then kind of what was the point? So the fact that we're in this discussion where he came in the second half, he wasn't great, neither was Spencer, obviously, and now we're in this week where they're going to compete on the practice field where it seems like for the last year, Spencer has a decisive advantage.
Right.
I'm not sure where it fits for Alex to be the starter. Like, I'm not sure exactly how that happens. So I think it's going to be Spencer. Truthfully, I don't think it matters too much just because Iowa's offense has a lot of problems. And I think that, they'll have an opportunity to do some things against Northwestern as well. But that's kind of where I sit on the quarterback discussion right now.
Yeah, we'll get to Northwestern's defense a little bit in our third topic. But, my intel, I guess, I would say that the lean is definitely towards Spencer, in my opinion. And like you said, I think if the coaches are legitimately telling these guys, hey, show us what you got in practice, then, like you said, I think Spencer has been the better performer in practice over a long period of time. We know that. We know you don't want to hear that, and justifiably so. So that just knowing the trust that they have in Spencer, despite the lack of results, I think that's probably the way it's going to go. And I think that they probably think whoever is a quarterback, which is why I put the question in here, will have some success on Saturday. Now, that may be misguided because the offensive line is not good and it's regressing badly. Mason Richmond, I believe, had a 0 pass blocking grade against Ohio State. And a lot of the other guys was not much better. So even the guy that you think you have the most trust in, Mason Richmond, not having success that you would want to see at this point, almost two full years in as a starter. And so it's hard to find positives up front. And that's the other reason I say it doesn't matter who starts on Saturday. Probably not that much, to be honest. So now we did see Alex have success against this Northwestern team last year, Kennington. Should that factor into it at all? I mean, Alex basically beat Northwestern after Spencer was utterly ineffective for 3 series.
Yeah, I think that can play into it in some way. I think just examining what he was able to do with not just against Northwestern, but in the weeks that he was starting afterwards. I feel like it's very imperative that the coaching staff goes back to that and what it looked like when he practiced with the ones for a full week and how he prepared with the starting lineup for a full week and how it manifested in gameplay. Because he won a lot of different type of games when he was starting last year. The Northwestern was kind of an off the bench type of performance. Minnesota was more of like the big play. Illinois, he had a lot of drops, but he was able to just kind of manage the game and find a way to win. So he's kind of won in a few different ways. I think that it would be wise for the coaching staff to just kind of go back and think about that and just kind of assess what he can do when he has kind of like that full support all around him and see what happens. But, for now, it just looks like it's going to be, just kind of like a 50-50 game time decision type of thing. Kirk said that Tuesday and Wednesdays are usually like heavy work days. So, it could be as early as tomorrow where they decide, or it could be as late as Friday, as he said today, where they kind of make that decision. They're going to play it by ear. But, I've already kind of stated I feel like it's going to be on Spencer, and I feel like if so, that will be just a really big disservice to Alex, that his only opportunity to play would be the situation that he was put in against Ohio State.
Right. And yeah, well put. I think at this point you want to you would like to see what Alex could do against any defense that's not elite. But I don't, we'll see. Maybe we'll get that chance on Saturday. But I guess bottom line is I think the coach's mentality is going to be, we want to win as many games as possible. And we think Spencer's familiar with the offense, ability to know the ball plays, all that stuff. I feel like it's all going to be in his favor. And it's ultimately going to be when Kirk Ferentz goes to evaluate, if he legitimately is going to evaluate this season and what kind of change is needed, if it is Spencer, they're trusting him. What, how misguided was that, and Brian, by the end of the season. So they're going to have to live with this. My point being, they're going to have to live with the decision at the end of the season, whatever it is, and then go from there. Sorry. I meant to switch that the other way.
And I would just say that in addition to that, I feel like, Kirk said he wants to play out for a while. I feel like this is maybe it's too early to say this 5 games out, but I feel like this is like a season-ending decision. And what I mean by that is if it's Spencer, I expect it to be Spencer the rest of the way, unless it's injury.
Right.
If it's Alex, I would expect it to be the rest of the way, if not for injury.
Yeah,
so I feel like
lose,
exactly. Yeah, it's that
like let's say Spencer starts and they lose like 21-6 Northwestern.
Yeah,
then you got to change.
Yeah,
right?
you have to change,
and then or vice versa.
Right.
Vice versa.
Right. So
like, okay,
injury,
well that didn't work.
Yeah, injury
like
or
exploding, like
right.
disastrously bad.
Yeah, injury or disaster. But,
all day, yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Not that anything hasn't been a disaster
exactly,
already.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
But I think
We've seen lots of disasters.
Exactly. But I feel like it's on a scale, like 54-10 against Ohio State. That's the number 2 team, should be number 1 in the country versus, like you said, a 21-6 defeat against 1-6 Northwestern at home on homecoming. Like that's like a whole different. That's a different level of disaster. Exactly. So, at the end of this week, whoever it is, I expect this discussion to have a little bit of a pin in it, unless we, that kind of worst case scenario thing comes about.
All right. So our last question, third down. Should we expect an offensive uptick, Kennington, against the worst defense that Iowa has faced this year? Something I pointed out in DVR Monday is that Iowa has faced 5 of the nation's top 10 defenses in the country this year. If I'm doing that off memory correctly, I believe Illinois is 1 or 2, Ohio State's right behind them, Michigan's like 5, Rutgers is 7, and Iowa State is 10. So, Iowa has faced, again, those teams got to benefit from facing Iowa, obviously, but Iowa has faced consecutively 4 straight top 10 defenses here. And Northwestern's defense, I believe, is ranked 97th behind Nevada. So, if you think back to the Nevada game, that was not a good defense. Statistically, Northwestern is worse. That's my wind-up to say, how much of an uptick do you expect based on some of that data?
Yeah.
So far, what do you think?
I think it's part opponent, and then you also have to temper the expectations with what you've seen over the last few weeks. So an uptick would be,
I'm talking
that would be like
at least two
touchdowns.
At
right,
least
exactly.
Exactly.
I was thinking that,
that's
right, exactly.
Minor.
that's what I'm saying. Like uptick is like you have to scale it because they haven't scored a touchdown in the last few weeks. So 1 touchdown would be an uptick. I think 2 is, I think 2.
I mean, 2 should be enough to win.
Yeah.
Or maybe 2 touchdowns, 2 field goals. Let's say 20 points. That should be enough to win.
Yeah. So can the offense get to 20 points?
Yeah. Can the offense get to 20? I
think that they can. Obviously, a lot of it is going to be predicated on what happens at the line of scrimmage with the offensive line. But, to your point, if going up against these elite defenses, going back, watching the film, correcting the mistakes, they're still having to go up against elite defenses week by week, like you said. Maybe it does feel like they're due for somewhat of a quote-unquote break going up against a defense that's not as formidable as the ones that they face in weeks past. I think 20 is attainable. I think it is a bit optimistic to say that, though. But I think, I would say 2 touchdowns. I would give them 2 touchdowns against Northwestern. I would say 2 touchdowns, not defense setting them up on a short field. Like, Riley Moss interception on the 25. They have 25 yards to go. I mean, like 2 legit long plus 50-yard drives, right. I think is an attainable goal for the offense this week.
Well, I think to me, can they run the football? Because at this point, the pass blocking is so bad that, and the quarterback isn't mobile enough. Can you run the football? That's to me where you got to get some ground this week. You kind of like the running backs still. I think you like Caleb Johnson, you like LaShawn Williams, and then that goes into avoiding the negative plays too. Like the sacks, the interceptions. Excuse me. So to me, is this a week where you can get healthy on offense? I'll look this up here. Northwestern's rush defense. Bear with me. Kenny, there it is. 102nd in the country in rush defense, right? So, they're giving up almost 200 yards a game on the ground. Seems like you can run the ball this week. Yeah. What I'm saying, because these last several weeks of rush defense has been like, Illinois doesn't allow anything. Right. Ohio State, Michigan, all that.
Yeah, that's again goes to what I was saying about the not only just a must-win game, but like a must-dominate type of game. Because to your point, for as bad as it's been offensively, it is hard to not lose sight of the fact that they have played some really good defenses. Like, I don't know how many people just watching the games week by week understand that they face 5 of the top 10 defenses. I didn't know that before you brought this up. So that is a good point. But I think that on the other side of that blade is if Iowa's not able to move the ball against this defense,
right? Then
what does that signify? Like, okay, like obviously nobody's trying to give the offense much leeway or any excuses for how they've performed this year, and rightfully so. But if they can't do it against the 100th defense or the defense that's worse than Nevada, then really what does that signify for the rest of the season and what that means going into the offseason as well? So I think that in that light, there's probably more pressure on the offense this week than there have been in the last several weeks. And that is saying something. And it's also coming at not the most opportune time when you're having a little bit of a quarterback controversy also to throw into the mix this week.
Right. Yeah. I mean, just thinking back to the Chicago Bears game last night, their offense has been pretty bad all year, especially in the passing game. And then last night, everything kind of came together. You saw an offense kind of gain some confidence. They scored 33 points all on offense. And, maybe that, I'm just thinking to myself, because the Bears and Hawkeyes have looked very similar all year offensively. Maybe can you get some stuff to come together, get some confidence on offense. That's kind of that was one thing I picked up on DVR Monday. This is a team that is not playing with any confidence on offense and needs a lift. And lastly, Deontay Vines. Let's close with Deontay Vines because
speaking of confidence,
speaking of offense, this is a guy I feel like, and he's no savior whatsoever, but you've been missing Keegan Johnson. This is a guy that has, we think, some Keegan Johnson skill to him. He's been playing some of that X receiver that Keegan is. Keegan not back this week. Deontay is, and they've really liked what they've seen. He's finally healthy. He got 19 snaps against the Buckeyes, and confident young man. And that at least there's a little help on the way here, I feel like.
Yeah, and I feel like he is coming into a situation where he came in and caught a pass in his first game. And I think that it might have been one of his early snaps in the game. So that lets me know that Spencer was looking to get him involved, and also that Spencer has some level of trust in him, that he just went to him almost straight away when he was on the field against an Ohio State defense. So I agree with you. He was somebody that
It's something. It's something, folks.
It's something.
Yeah,
I mean,
we're grasping here.
Right. I mean, but you look at the receiver core, and Arlen Bruce said today, from the beginning of the year, they have been so depleted at receiver. It started off with just him, and then Nico Wright came back, and he's obviously a trusted target of Spencer. Brody Brecht really hasn't been involved in terms of getting targets really since that Nevada game. He got so many targets in that game. Him and Spencer were on the same page. He hasn't really been getting targeted since. So he's been out there, but he hasn't really been a fixture in the offense. So getting somebody like Deontay, who just me reading the tea leaves, it feels like Spencer has more trust in him. Just him being out there and being an option and somebody who does have a little bit more big playability. He said he feels like he's someone who can take the top off the defense, and he's in shape. Unlike Nico and Brody, who had to come in and kind of like work their way back over a few weeks, he injured his hand.
Lower leg injury.
Yeah, he injured his hand, so he's been able to run for a lot of weeks. So he should be ready to kind of get in there and play a lot of snaps. Yeah. So maybe he's somebody who can come in and give something, anything.
Yeah.
They
got 2 passing touchdowns this year, and one of them was in the last 8 seconds against Michigan. So
right.
and the other one was would have been Nevada, right? It was Arlen
on Nevada. I don't have the stats in front of me. I don't know how many targets the receivers have gotten in the last few weeks combined. I'm sure it's been a very few amount. So just somebody else who can maybe provide a different look, or maybe create some separation, get open, is definitely helpful. At this point, it's a all hands on deck. Anybody who can contribute type of deal. This is the healthiest that Iowa's receiver room has been all season. This might be the healthiest they'll be all year. We don't know what's going to happen with Keegan Johnson or Jacob Bostic, if they're going to be able to come back this season. So you got your top 4 guys, all scholarship receivers. So that's a good omen for Spencer or Alex, whoever's going to be the quarterback on Saturday.
All right. See, we left you with a little positivity, Hawkeyes. All right. For Kennington Smith, Chad Leistikow in the same view here. Right. Hopefully we'll get those technical difficulties fixed for Saturday's post game, but catch us tomorrow night on Hawk Central Radio, KXNO. And thanks for joining me, my friend. And we will see you. We'll talk again tomorrow. We'll talk more Hawkeye football tomorrow. I'll get you prepped for Northwestern. Thanks for tuning in, folks.